Hello class, today we're going to be talking about Extravag-ANTS, or as you can tell, we're going to be talking about ants. So what are ants? Well, just like any other organism, we can tell a lot about what they are by just looking at their classification. They're in the kingdom Animalia. They're in the phylum Arthropoda, so if you remember, this means that they have exoskeletons, jointed appendages, and they're probably going to, or they will be, crustaceans, myriapods, insects, or arachnids. They're in the class Insecta, so we know that they have 3 pairs of legs, making a total of 6, 3 body sections, and 1 or 2 pairs of wings. They're in the order Hymenoptera, which means it's either an ant, wasp, or bee. And they're in the family Formicidae. And depending on what kind of ant we're looking at, they're divided into various subfamilies, genuses, and species. But today we're just going to be looking at their common names. So what ants are we going to be talking about today? Well, the first and what I believe is the most interesting of all of the ones we're going to be talking about are weaver ants. They're eusocial, so they actually live in their colonies and they have specific job functions that they go about doing in order to make their whole society reach its goals. And they build nests in trees, and one colony can have millions of ants in it, so they can build multiple nests in one tree. And what they do is they go ahead and form long chains holding on to one another in order to pull the leaves together. And after they pull the leaves together, some of the workers hold them while others will go and fetch the baby larva from the nursery, because ants do have nurseries, and they will take the larva and have the larva create silk in order to sew the leaves together. And that's why their larvae don't have silk. But they don't need it because they'll be protected in their little nests. They eat small insects and scale bugs, which is great for pest management. They're reddish to light green in color. They only have one queen, unlike some ant species, and they can slice and spray formic acid, which is dangerous because they are truly, truly aggressive. Now, it's great for getting rid of predators, and that's why in some Asian countries, we use them for protecting like bamboo and various like fruit trees, but this does become a problem during harvest time. Okay, so here are quite a few pictures of weaver ants so you can get an idea of what we're talking about. And these 2 pictures, they basically show how the weaver ants work together. If they are going after something that's just too big for just one of the ants alone, they will hold on to kind of just important parts of the other insects, making them helpless and unable to defend themselves. And then what they will do is they'll go ahead and rip and chew apart the insect and eat them, or drink the liquid from them, that is. And then how they do this is with their mandibles. So if you remember from our previous unit, insects have different mouth parts, and these modified mouth parts are mandibles, and that's what those little spiky things are in front of the ant's face. It's mandibles, so they're sharp, they're easy to slice with, and that's how they chew through leaves and their prey. Now here are a few pictures of nest building and the nests themselves. The bottom left, you can see how the leaves are actually curled, and they can be curled quite a bit. Yeah, and that's just an ant just sitting on one. And then the top one shows a better idea of the whole nest overall. So they create these little balls, and they no longer have to hold on to them because they're sewn together. And they usually do this at the top of the trees. And then the middle one shows the chains that they use. So they're pretty strong little creatures. And they can reach quite a distance for how small they are. And that's how they link together, holding on to each other's abdomens in order to grab the next leaf and pull it close. And then the ones on the left are just the ants holding the leaves together. It just shows how many that they have to have holding them together, and they are waiting for another ant to come along holding their little larva and sewing that leaf together. The next ant species that we're going to be talking about is honeypot ants. And these are also interesting little guys. So they are eusocial as well. They have various jobs within their little colony. And what they do is some workers will hold sugary liquids such as nectar in their abdomens, and they'll go collect it from usually like cactus flowers and succulent flowers because they live in like really hot places. A lot of them will live in desert areas, and they come in many colors. And that's talking about their actual abdomen itself, because you'll see basically the same color as whatever they ate. So they can be red, green, blue, or like in this picture, they can be a yellowish, orangey color. And the ant itself, this one's a little bit more brownish red, but they can be lighter than that as well. They also have one queen, and they are a delicacy in many cultures or countries. And that's because they have kind of a sweet taste from the nectar inside of their abdomens, but they're also a little tangy. So here are a few pictures of the honeypot ants themselves. So the bottom two on the left just show some variation in color in the ant itself. Of course, their pots will be different. You usually just see this orangey yellow color though, because that's the color of the nectar that they drink most of the time. And what they do is during cold periods or periods where they cannot collect a lot of food, they'll go and fill up, and then those ants from the colony will stay on the top and just hang there, and other ones will come along and get food whenever they need it, drink from their abdomen. So you can really see it in the bottom right picture and the top left where they're just holding on top, and some of them are too big to even leave their tunnels. You can see that more in the top left. And then if you look in the top right picture, you can tell that some of them are striped looking, and that's because they're not always full like that. That's what they look like before they fill up, and they're striped because those parts can expand in order to hold that liquid. And then the next ant that we're going to be talking about is army ants. These guys are pretty unique. They're eusocial as well, but they're nomadic, which is different from the weaver and honeypot ants that we went over, and many ants in general. And what they do is they colonize for like a few days, and then when they no longer find the area suitable, they go and move to a new location. They don't stay in the same location for long. And their queens, there's only one queen as well. Their queens are not able to move because they are too big. So they carry their queen whenever they move. They eat practically anything in their way. So if you are standing in the way when army ants are coming, you better get out the way. They will eat crops and plants as well as animals. Usually they'll eat insects, but they can take down small lizards, small snakes, and even small rabbits. So they're pretty dangerous guys. Or gals, I should say. And they're dark in color. So not necessarily black like in this picture to the right, but they can be slightly lighter than that. And they are the most aggressive out of the few that we've talked about. And possibly they're pretty up there in the most aggressive ants in general as well. Okay, so here are a few pictures of army ants. These are pictures of the army ants traveling. So as you can see, they make little paths. So on the bottom right, you can just see they're making a little path so other ants can come through. And then when their queen comes through, because they're carrying her, they form these tunnels. So if you look in the middle picture on the top, they're creating this, they're kind of doing what weaver ants do, and they form these chains over top so the queen can travel below and the one's carrying the queen. And that way, if a bird or a larger animal comes up, they can either protect from above or they will just be taken instead. And then on the side, they're protected as well. And then on the left, you can see that they just crawl over practically anything in their way. Nothing is going to stop them. And then in these pictures, if you look, their mandibles are a little bit different. They're very long, very, very sharp, able to pierce through things easily. So that's why they do a great job protecting from the sides, on top, and even just taking down any kind of prey that they want to eat. And the bottom left, you can see that they took down a pretty large scorpion for their size. And yeah, they can take down things even bigger than that. Okay, so here is a quick review over the different ants we went over today. We have honeypot ants, which are a delicacy in many countries because they're sweet because of that nectar that they eat and fill up with, that they use to feed the rest of the colony throughout colder periods of time. We have weaver ants that use their baby's silk in order to make these nests in trees instead of living in tunnels in the ground. And then we have army ants that don't let anything get in the way, and they colonize other colonies of ants no matter what the species is, and they take slaves with them. They're unstoppable. Okay, so now that we're done today, because we are out of time, go ahead and join us next time. We're going to learn about the basic behaviors, basic social behaviors of ants in general. Thanks, guys.